Hi, and welcome to My Words Our Journey, the podcast, Episode 7 of Zodiac, Attempted Redemption. I'm Mana, your host and author, and I'm truly appreciative of the support. I know there's a lot to be desired when it comes to editing and sound quality, but I hope you're finding value in the story. So before we begin today's episode, let's do a recap of Episode 6. We open the episode with Clara and Sean receiving a text from the Zodiac, stating that there's been an envelope left at her house. And as promised, there's more than enough material to begin a podcast. So, that's exactly what the couple decide to do. We get a taste of the first episode, the ups and downs that came along with making it, and we learn that Michael has taken a legitimate job, working at an automotive dealership. We meet one of his co-workers and trainers, Wrecker, and we find out that Michael is pretty good working the service drive. We also meet Kenny, a business partner and friend of Sean's, as well as Leonard and his dog Styx, who should be arriving in the next few days. Sean was going to feel better, having his partners by his side. Clara and Sean had handed over the material that they had, what they would use, what they wouldn't, to the authorities. Michael, he had listened to the podcast. He liked everything about it, except for the title. Then we follow Michael as he kills a woman he thinks is at the top of the list for bad mothers. Marcy dies on the porch swing, and her auntie dies in her recliner, an act of mercy in Michael's mind. But Michael's busy, so he doesn't stop there. He sends a cryptic note to Clara, and then attacks a judge, out in broad daylight. He thinks he's getting ready to get away clean. Then he hears his voice. Then he realizes it's a coworker with a big mouth. So let's begin our new episode with Chapter 1, entitled Public. Facebook, X, TikTok, all of them were showing the same footage. Clips of the poor judge, confused, bleeding, carried away by the medics. A well-respected judge of color, attacked in broad daylight, in an upscale park, with families and children nearby. The Zodiac had struck the legal system, and this time, it hit differently. It felt like he had crossed a line, as if he hadn't already done that dozens of times. The clips were being watched by thousands, maybe millions. Nikki sat on the couch, watching the coverage, biting her lip. "This has to be good for the police," she said out loud. Michael didn't answer, picked up his cereal, walked into the other room, leaving Nikki confused. Michael's mood had shifted again. He had been off lately, not in a small way. They had the cottage, Michael had a good job, they had Buddy. The only thing that had changed, Michael's mood swings, his short temper. Probably stress from work, Nikki thought. That's normal, right? She followed him, kissed a cheek, and promised she would bring him home dinner after their work shifts. Then Nikki was gone. Michael stood in the shower, anger curling deep, not at himself, at everyone else, at the world for reacting like he was the bad guy. That judge wasn't dead. He'd just never see again. The man had turned a blind eye. Now he was blind. Why couldn't everyone see that? An eye for an eye. Within an hour, Michael was at the dealership. Bright lights, shiny cars, idle chatter. The co-workers were talking about a customer from the night before. Then, muffler. "Man, why do you ignore me? Just took off." He was close, too close, a close talker. Michael could feel the eyes in the room shifting. "Muffler," he said, steady. "Did you stop at Taco Bell on the way in?" Laughter broke out. "I have no idea what you're talking about," Michael added. "But if I dissed you, my bad. I didn't see you." "Didn't see me? I was yelling your name. The whole park thought I was your jilted lover, begging you to come back to me." Now the room was laughing even harder. Michael grinned, played along. "Well, I was with Nikki, so I don't think that would have gone over well." Muffler didn't let it go. "Nope, I saw you. Right there. Attack on the judge. Front and center. Tight little running shorts. Looked like you just ran a marathon." A little quieter. And when you saw me, you booked." "Make him shut up," the voice snapped. Michael smiled, waved it off. "You've got me confused with somebody else." But as he turned to leave, he heard it. "Look here." The quick pivot. Michael had his phone out. A small crowd had formed. Michael walked over slowly. "I don't know how in God's name you think that guy looks like me," he said, pointing at the screen. "I've got about 20 pounds on this guy, and my legs are well defined. His are not." He squinted. "But he does have nice hair." That got another laugh. He turned, started walking towards the parts department, paused, then turned back. "Muffler," he said loud enough for everyone to hear, "next time you see me in public, just run up, pinch my butt, and give me a big old kiss. You have my permission." Laughter again, bigger this time. Everyone except Muffler. He wasn't laughing, because he knew what he had seen, and he had seen Michael. Chapter 42. This is the Zodiac. This is the Zodiac. This was not the voice. This was all me. Blood of the Zodiac running through my veins. Don't spend 1 second feeling sorry for that woman. She was guilty. Feel sorry for the system that failed the aunt and those children. A system that feels no heat from blind-eyed. But what if? Lowercase z. The message filled the entire wall of the task force conference room. Kenny stood in front of it, arms crossed, studying, obsessing. Sean and Clara leaned against the far wall, watching him. They were waiting on Leonard, who, as usual, was running late. The meeting wouldn't start for another hour. Still, the message loomed like a prophecy. Kenny spoke aloud, eyes never leaving the screen. "What do you think? No heat for its blind eye means?" No one answered. He turned to look at them. No heat, like no punishment? No fire? So what if he is the heat? What if this was him turning up the heat? No one disagreed. Michael loved his grandfather. More than anyone. Even Nicky. He had finally surrendered to the truth. The man had lived a double life. The Zodiac was real. He was family. Michael saw himself in the same way now. He wasn't playing a role. He was becoming organized, task-driven. A certain time, a certain place. Keep the two lives separate, but aligned. It made sense to him. What didn't make sense? And it just kept gnawing at Michael. How no one saw men like Judge Westfield for what they were. Corrupt, complacent, untouchable. The system wasn't broken. It was built this way. And whenever anyone tried to speak about it, they were branded crazy, delusional, a nut. Michael had seen it before. So, maybe he shouldn't have taken the judge's side. But if he hadn't, the voice would have made him do a lot worse. That much he believed. Now he sat in the dealership's break room. Plastic table, microwave lunches, paper towels for napkins. A half circle of coworkers chatting about the killer like they were experts. The Zodiac, the podcast, the judge. Michael chewed slowly, waiting. Kill them all, he thought. He waited for the voice to say it. As the group behind him talked over each other, Michael scrolled through an article he had saved. Something about behavioral traits skipping generations. Serial killer DNA. It wasn't a scientific consensus, but it made sense to him. Another post claimed handwriting could be generational, and it could be passed down. That there were similarities between a father's loops and a grandson's slant. Michael looked down at his own notes, scrawled on a napkin beside his lunch. He wondered if his grandfather's letters had looked like this before they were perfected, before they were feared. He made a note. Try it later, when he was alone. Muffler was the worst of them. Loud, wrong, smug. "I'm telling you," he said, waving a burrito like a microphone. "If the killer was in the crowd, that's why they were taking all those pictures, you know. Hell, I might have captured the guy on my phone." He looked right at Michael. "You might have been standing right next to the killer." Mikey, oh boy, oh wait, you weren't there. You weren't there. Sarcasm dripping like grease. Michael couldn't help but stare at him. Kill that muffler, he thought. The voice stayed silent, not even a whisper. So instead, Michael took the high road. He smiled. Wouldn't surprise me, muffler. He leaned in. Voice lowered. Nikki's been finding pine needles in my boxers. Pause. Thinks I'm sleepwalking. Silence. Then laughter from everyone but Muffler. Michael leaned back in his chair. Steady. Controlled. For now. Chapter 43. Bad joke or... Michael had accepted it, the blood in his veins. It belonged to the Zodiac. He believed now that his grandfather had continued to kill, that he must have lived a double life. He would have had to. Michael remembered him vividly, a leader, calm, intelligent, loving. How could someone like that be the same man now whispering in his DNA? Unless he'd found a way to feed the urge. The same way Michael was trying to. From the article he had read, he decided to try the writing experiment. He flipped the paper over, started copying random phrases from different Zodiac notes. Sometimes he traced, sometimes he freehanded. The more he wrote, the more something clicked, like muscle memory, like his hand remembered a language his brain didn't. He tried signing Zodiac, then just for himself, Windsor. He held the two papers side by side. Same strange capitals, same erratic spacing, same anger in the strokes. His throat felt dry. He hadn't tried to match the handwriting exactly, but it matched anyway. After staring at the paper for what felt like too long, Michael decided he should move on, past the undecided stage. He had a plan: help Clara succeed, guide her podcast, shape her voice, punish the system, show them they were never safe. A few more criminals, a few final truths. Then the Zodiac would fade away again, slip back into the shadows. Wait. He was in the kitchen making dinner when Nikki walked in, face tight. Michael, she said, there are 2 police officers in the living room. They want to speak with you. She hesitated. About the stabbing in the park. Michael's heart rocketed out of his chest and hit the ceiling fan. His handwritings were in the kitchen trash. He rinsed his hands, ran them through his hair. Deep breath. Then he followed her into the living room. The officers were polite, smiling. They introduced themselves. Everyone sat. Small talk first. Then they said a coworker had mentioned Michael might have information that could help in the case. Michael raised an eyebrow. Coworker? One of the officers checked his notepad. Patrick Denson. Muffler. Inside, Michael was molten. Outside, he smiled, apologized, said he didn't know anything beyond what he had read in the papers and heard around work. Nikki looked surprised at him, maybe disappointed, like something small had shifted, something she couldn't quite name. She didn't say anything. She just crossed her arms and looked at the floor. But Michael felt it, a flicker. Michael did his best to stay calm, and he thought he was doing a good job. Just another guy, caught in a misunderstanding. The next morning, Wrecker was outside prepping a couple of loners when Michael clocked in. Michael nodded a greeting. He didn't say much. He still wanted to explode, but he wouldn't. He wouldn't give Muffler the satisfaction. Besides, Nikki thought this job represented their future. Stability, growth, something solid. Michael didn't want to ruin that. Michael's day moved quick. He and Wrecker shuffled inventory, helped with service, took a few test drives. By the time he looked at his clock, it was already lunch. He was finishing up when Muffler walked in with 2 of his friends, grinning. Do anything exciting last night, Michael? Michael looked up, calm, smooth. Nope, just another peaceful night in the cottage. He smiled. You gentlemen have a good afternoon. Kill them with kindness, he thought. No, kill them, the voice screamed. Chapter 44. Do better. Traffic in the city was bad on its best day. On its worst, well, that's why living and working downtown had its perks. Didn't need a car. That was a big one. Trina Presley didn't make as much as she wanted to, but she made ends meet, had a little extra at the end of each month, had her own place, didn't live with her parents like some of her friends. And there was always something going on downtown. Grand openings, art crawls, rooftop DJs. Tonight, it was a fundraiser for the children's home of Greater San Francisco. They needed new beds, new bedding. The state budget had come up short again. Funny how there's always money for the projects they want to fund, someone had muttered during the speeches. Others nodded quietly. Trina disagreed, though. She was a patrol officer, had been for 11 years. She'd seen how budgets worked, or didn't, how priorities shifted, how people got forgotten. Her caseload had been massive, one of her final ones before a reassignment. Marcy Ann Marie Johnson. There were regrets. They kept her up at night, especially since the judge had been stabbed. She hadn't planned to attend this event tonight, but it was close to home, for a good cause, open bar, free food. She'd volunteered to help set up and tear down the tables, trying to earn back a little goodwill wherever she could. She had heard what people were saying about her job performance. They weren't wrong. You wouldn't have to dig deep to find missteps in the Marcy Johnson case. Trina, she had received death threats. Twice, she found notes on her desk telling her to quit. She couldn't. 14 more years until retirement. No rich parents. No safety net. It was going to be a long 14 years, but she had to keep going. Support from her bosses was non-existent. Her coworkers? Distant. Her friends at work? Well, they had drifted away. She assumed nobody wanted to get caught in the splash zone. She was exhausted. He'd gone in early to receive a delivery, stayed late to fold tables and stack chairs. Her body ached. Her mind buzzing with worry about her future, about those 14 long years ahead, and about whether she'd even last that long. Maybe that's why her guard was down. Maybe that's why she didn't notice. The killer got close. Too close. A single shot to the back of the head. It was instant. No fear, no scream, no time to ask why. Later, the message appeared. This is the Zodiac. The system is broken. Do better, and I won't have to intervene again. I don't want to. It wasn't me. Not all me. Lowercase z. Chapter 45. Closer. Clara and Sean watched the footage on loop. Black sweatsuit, black sneakers, one shot to the back of her head. Trina Presley never had a chance. They widened the search radius, picked up the figure 2 blocks out. Then 4. Then again. Blurry. Maybe a bike? After that, they could only watch the figure on what appeared to be a mountain bike, if they were guessing, disappear into a small patch of woods. It only took a few minutes for things to really start moving. It may have only been a sliver. Not much, but it felt like a lot to a group that had had so little. Kenny needed less than 10 minutes. He found the article. 2 young men accosted by a deranged man with a weapon just outside a bar. Same area. Also within walking distance, the alley where the brothers were murdered. The house of Marcy Johnson's aunt. It wasn't a road map, but it was a cluster, and clusters meant patterns. They had a starting point. Clara crossed her arms, thought this was a stretch, suggested they concentrate on the Trina case, maybe the podcast. But Sean, the more the killer moved, the closer he felt. Leonard offered to take the streets. He and Styx would canvass the district, get a feel for the place. Clara, she'd stay back, work on the next episode of the podcast. Kenny and Sean, They planned to keep the pressure on the authorities. So, that's what they would be doing, meeting with the FBI, the CIA. Then they'd meet Leonard for lunch downtown. Then they could all canvass the area around the wooded area, looking for any opportunity to get images of the suspect leaving the area. The killer was moving more now, which was bad, but it also meant one thing. More movement means more chances to make a mistake. Leonard had learned long ago, sometimes catching someone wasn't about brilliance. Sometimes it was about being there when the mask slipped. Downtown San Francisco's bar district was something to behold. Leonard moved methodically, not sightseeing, but absorbing. By the time Sean and Kenny joined him, they were walking as one, eyes up, ears open, bodies alert. The area looked polished, but they all knew night changes everything. Meanwhile, at the dealership, Michael needed a breather. From work, from Muffler, from everything. He stepped towards his car, heard footsteps behind him. Muffler? I think it was you at the park, he said. What I can't understand is why you're lying. Michael turned, mouth half opened. I'm not one that lets things go, Muffler added. Just saying. So if you've got any bloody clothes in your hamper, you might want to do something about them. Then he walked off. Like he hadn't just flipped Michael's world upside down. Michael stood there frozen. Muffler? Really? If he truly thought Michael had stabbed someone, why would he confront him like this? Unless he wanted something. Or worse, he was trying to draw him out. Either way, he had to be dealt with. Michael knew it. The voice didn't even have to say it. But it would have, and it would have been right. Muffler wasn't going away, and that meant Michael was going to get caught. Unless he eliminated the threat. The rest of the day, Muffler was everywhere. In his periphery, on the service floor, by the vending machines, orbiting Michael like a curse. It was driving him mad. And then, mercy. One of the managers asked Wrecker if he could spare Michael for the rest of the day. He was needed in another location. Michael said yes before they could finish the sentence. He needed the space, needed the air. But mostly, he needed time to think. He texted Nikki on the drive, said he needed some time, he may be home a little late. She replied 3 minutes later, everything okay? He stared at it for a moment, not knowing how to answer. Then he just said, work stress. She didn't answer after that. It made his chest tighten. Podcast content must be agreed upon by both parties. That was what Sean and Clara had decided in the beginning. Now, Sean, it's just a podcast. We're not the Chronicle. You said that yourself. Clara didn't flinch. Exactly, which means we don't have editors to catch us if we go too far. And I won't be responsible for someone getting hurt because we speculated too hard on a microphone. Her voice didn't rise, but the intensity, it landed hard. Sean held up a hand, surprised by the force of her reaction. Okay, you're right. She softened a little, looked away. We follow facts, that's all. But Sean couldn't help wondering, who exactly was she protecting? It had been a long day. Maybe she was right. But something told him someone in that downtown area would be able to help catch a killer. Chapter 46. Muffled. The morning was still dark when Michael slipped out of bed. Nikki and Buddy were tangled in blankets, warm, unaware. His sneakers and sweats were already in the kitchen chair, quiet, prepared. He'd be back before they ever noticed. Hot shower, clean shave, to work a little early. It wasn't a day to be late. Today's jogging route would be a little different. No phone, no watch, no electronics. He'd run farther than usual, just over 7 miles. That's what it would take. Muffler lived with his mother, talked about it all the time, bragged even. Michael had listened, logged it. A passing comment about how close their houses were, meaningless then, everything now. The plan had rules. Muffler's mother would not be harmed. No diversions, no chaos, just Muffler. His coworker stayed in a trailer behind the house. Temporary, he said, until his townhouse was finished. Whether that was true or not really didn't matter. What mattered was, he was an early riser, made breakfast for his mother every morning, always. Michael heard that too, stored it away. As he jogged up the edge of the property, he spotted the silhouette, Muffler, moving around inside the main house. Good boy. Michael moved slowly. No cameras, no dogs, no other sounds. The trailer door was ajar, lights on. The smell of coffee drifted out. Inside, quiet, clean, small, comfortable. Not a sign of a girlfriend. That helped. Michael stepped back out. Muffler was descending the front steps, carrying a tray. Looking down, focused on his footing. Michael waited. Then Michael stepped forward. Muffler started, nearly dropped the tray. Jesus, you scared me. Then, I was stopping by the police station on my way to work. His last words. The silencer gave Michael the head start he needed. He didn't kill him in the trailer. That was a calculated mercy. His mother could sell it more easily this way, maybe even get a little extra. Or some weirdo might pay more for a Zodiac killing crime scene. Michael smirked. Only for a second. No time for foolishness. He needed a shave and a shower. And a plan for Nikki, because eventually she'd start asking the right questions. And that might be a problem. And I think that's a good place for us to stop today. Again, I hope you're enjoying the journey. Have a great day.